A mountaintop marathon is the backdrop for a brutal homicide.
The victim was shot in the chest with a .25 caliber handgun.
Once that bullet's in your chest, it's in for the grand tour. They become a pinball in a pinball machine.
On the hunt for the killer, Lieutenant Joe Kenda uncovers an unusual trail of clues.
17 condoms in cellophane wrappers. That's a lot of condoms. What are they doing here?
But to solve the crime, he'll need to summit a mountain of lies, innuendo, and muddled eyewitness reports.
We have to play this game to get to the truth. But that's the nature of the beast. You have to play a game. I'm good at the game. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I'm Lieutenant Joe Kenda. I've solved over 387 homicides. Somebody has to take control. Somebody has to look out for the victim. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved.
August 18th, 1993. It's 3 days before the running of the annual Pikes Peak Marathon.
The Pikes Peak Ascent is a foot race up along Bar Trail up to the top of Pikes Peak.
For runners, it's a big deal, and you're getting a lot of people coming in from out of state to run that Pikes Peak Marathon.
That evening, as the sun sets over the mountain, it's easy to see why the race draws so many visitors to Colorado Springs.
It was one of those absolutely beautiful summer nights in Colorado Springs. You walked outside and you went, this is heaven.
But this picture-perfect scene is about to be ripped apart in the most violent way imaginable. In a shopping center not far from Pikes Peak, assistant manager Joe Bricardo works the counter at a local drugstore.
I was working with a customer over in the camera department.
Suddenly, a man bursts through the door in a state of panic.
Somebody's been shot. Call 911 right now.
I'm a deputy with the Sheriff's Department.
The lady I was helping identified herself as an off-duty sheriff's deputy, and she came out as well.
Don't touch him.
When they reach the victim, he's lying on his back. It's clear he's been shot in the chest. The off-duty deputy kneels down to check his vitals.
I'm not getting anything.
She felt for a pulse and did not find one.
Joe Bricardo tries his best to comfort the wounded man, but he's fading fast.
He was definitely in a deep sense of shock. I said that we're going to do everything we can to help you.
While the victim clings to life, sirens blare as paramedics race to the scene. Across town, Lieutenant Joe Kenda is ready to call it a day.
I had just gotten home. It had been a long day at the office. I was going to sit down and get something to eat when the phone rang.
The moment Kenda answers,
Hello?
he realizes dinner will have to wait. On the line is dispatch. There's been a shooting.
Where is it?
I'm never surprised when the phone rings. At 8:30 in the morning or 8:30 at night or 3 o'clock in the morning. Whenever the phone rings, we respond.
I'll be right there.
The neighborhood was a commercial district, certainly not a high crime area.
By the time Kenda arrives at the scene, paramedics have already rushed the victim to the hospital, and a small crowd has gathered in the parking lot.
Hey folks, you mind making a hole here?
Excuse me.
Hey Lieutenant.
How you doing?
All right.
What do we got?
White male, shot possibly twice.
My first mission when I get there is to speak to the first uniformed officers on the scene. What can you tell me?
We've got a couple of people that were in the pharmacy, say they didn't see anything. We've got another guy saying he thinks it was a drive-by, but he hasn't given us a whole lot to go on.
Well, we do have a witness that says he thinks it's a drive-by.
Kenda takes a deep breath. Drive-bys are usually the work of gangs, and gang violence is messy business.
Who told you it was a drive-by? And he points a guy out.
Hey, sir, can you step through here, please?
This fellow's name is Roberto Torres. He works in a liquor store that's right in front of where the victim is found.
I heard a shot, so I came outside and I saw him laying right there in the parking lot.
He says, I didn't see anybody around. So it had to be a drive-by. Why does it have to be a drive-by, Roberto? Well, I didn't see anybody on foot. I didn't see anybody walking, didn't see anybody running. Well, did you see a car? Well, no.
Did you hear any vehicles speeding away?
I didn't.
What makes you think it was a drive-by? Thank you for your help.
Okay, thank you. First reports and I are not friends. I tend to put very little interest in them. They're based on rumor. They generally don't work out. I don't want them to poison my process of keeping an open mind.
How old was the victim?
He looked to be mid-70s, maybe.
A 70-year-old man? I can't picture a 70-year-old man being a gangbanger. The odds of this being a drive-by, in my mind, are non-existent.
With the drive-by theory dead on arrival, Kenda scans the scene and notices a number of cars parked in the surrounding lot.
Which one of these vehicles is his?
We haven't found a vehicle in the parking lot that goes with him.
You've checked them all?
Yes, sir.
There are no cars unaccounted for. So he apparently is walking, either in this area or to and from this business, when he is somehow contacted and shot.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Why is he on foot? Why isn't there a car here that belongs to this person?
This is where the witnesses found the victim. His feet were this direction. His head was over here, and laying on his back, he had a single bullet wound to his chest.
Okay.
We are able to locate a small blood stain on the asphalt in the immediate vicinity where the victim was.
And then we were able to locate one shell casing.
What caliber is it?
It was a 25 caliber.
I look at that bloodstain and look at that small bullet casing, and my first thought is, uh-oh, this is going to be a homicide. If you're shot with a high-energy, large-caliber handgun, it's going to punch a hole in one side and punch a hole in the other side. Small caliber is a whole different problem. They are low energy, low velocity, enough punch to enter, but once that bullet's in your chest, it's in for the grand tour. It is a nightmare for a surgeon. He can't possibly repair the structure damage fast enough. They're almost always fatal. Almost always.
As Kenda examines the shell casing, another piece of evidence catches his eye.
About 20 yards north of the bloodstain are 17 condoms.
Loose condoms, individually wrapped. They were multicolored.
That's a lot of condoms. What are they doing here? You've got a 25 caliber casing and a small bloodstain. You have an elderly man who's apparently been shot to death in front of a drugstore in a no-crime area at 9 o'clock at night, and there's 17 condoms in the parking lot. What does this translate to? I haven't got a clue.
Lieutenant Kenda.
Kenda tries to make sense of this bizarre scene when he gets a call from one of his men.
Go ahead for Lieutenant Kenda.
Sir, I'm at the hospital. That
victim from the pharmacy shooting, he's been pronounced dead.
I get a call from a detective at the hospital who announces that our victim is dead as a result of a single-entry gunshot wound.
As Kenda feared, the small caliber bullet has proven fatal.
The victim in this particular case was shot in the chest, and it actually went through his arm, through his bicep and into his chest.
It lacerated the entire left lung laterally, then passed through the lower aorta of the heart, and then lodged in the victim's spine. Exactly what I suspected. A little bullet in for the grand tour.
With the case now officially a homicide, the question of motive looms larger than ever.
The first officers in the scene assume personal robbery because of the location. That's entirely possible.
Do you have any belongings on this person?
10-4, he had
A wallet and a set of keys on him.
Can you check the contents of the wallet?
there's a small amount of cash.
Credit cards, that kind of thing.
Well, I expect him to tell me that he's got nothing. He's got no wallet, no money, no ID. I'm really surprised to learn he's got everything. Well, that's not a robbery.
The notion of a deadly armed robbery may be off the table, but the victim's wallet does provide new evidence.
Anything else that might help identify where he came from?
Sure, I got an Arkansas driver's license for a Robert Elsher.
He has an Arkansas driver's license. His name is Robert L. Elshire. So he's 1,000 miles from home at 9 o'clock at night. How did he get here? How did he get here?
It's just before midnight on August 18th, 1993, 3 days before the running of the annual Pikes Peak Marathon. As the athletes rest up for the difficult ascent, Lieutenant Joe Kenda and his team stand in the middle of a parking lot turned crime scene, wondering who shot and killed 71-year-old Robert Elshire and why.
I get a call from a detective at the hospital. Everything in his wallet says he's from the state of Arkansas, including his driver's license. How did he get here?
Sifting through the contents of Robert Elshire's wallet, one of Kenda's men makes a discovery that might answer that question.
Oh wait, there's a business card here for a condominium complex just a couple blocks away.
10-4, I'm gonna need you and Detective Ritz to go over there, take a look around, see what you find, and report back to me.
10-4.
In search of the victim's vehicle, a pair of Kenda's men make their way to the condo complex.
Arkansas over here, partner.
Moments later, they find what they're looking for.
They do find a pickup truck with Arkansas plates. They run a listing on a handheld radio with the comm center, and it comes back to Robert L. and Helen Elshire. That's the truck.
Detectives shine their flashlights inside the vehicle, looking for clues. But their search is cut short.
Robert?
On the second floor, a woman says, "Robert, is that you?"
Ma'am, we're with the Colorado Springs Police Department. Do you know a Robert Elshire?
Yes, that's my husband. What's happened?
Do you mind if we come up and have a word?
The woman identifies herself as Helen Elshire, Robert Elshire's wife.
She sees them approaching and puts her hand over her mouth and says, "Oh God, what has happened?" Because these aren't just policemen, they're policemen in suits.
What happened?
Ma'am, did I understand you correctly? You're Robert's wife?
Yes, I'm Helen Elshire. What happened to Robert?
Obviously, at that point, we are really bound to tell her that her husband is deceased.
We're sorry to inform you that your husband has passed away.
When one of my detectives tells her that her husband has been shot to death, she collapses in his arms. It's the grief reaction that you dread witnessing, but you witness every time.
How could something like this happen? Especially when you've always tried to live your life, to be a good person, to do for others, which my father and mother did over and over again.
Detectives try to give Helen Elshire time to process the terrible news, but the clock is ticking.
There's a killer on the loose. We need information from Helen Elshire, and we need it right now.
I know this is difficult, ma'am, but if you could just answer a few of our questions, it would really help out with the investigation.
We try to find out why they're in Colorado Springs.
What brings you to Colorado?
Oh, we come every year. My husband loves to run the Pikes Peak Marathon.
She explains that her husband, Robert, is an avid runner, and it is his habit to come to Colorado Springs to run the Pikes Peak Marathon. You have to be in monumental condition to be able to complete that. And Robert was. Done it for 5 years in a row.
Always, Mom would be there with him, and she'd be at the top of the mountain waiting for him to arrive.
Helen informs detectives that earlier that evening, she came down with a splitting headache.
I just cannot get rid of this headache.
Yeah? I'll go get you something.
Be careful.
There's a drugstore nearby, and he's like, honey, you know, I'll go pick up some medicine for you. And it was a nice summer night. He was an athletic man, so he probably was just enjoying walking over there.
According to Helen, not long after Robert left, she heard sirens and got a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach.
She didn't know what it was or if it pertained to anything to do with my father, but she felt uncomfortable.
Sadly, Helen's instincts were correct.
Robert Elshire is a retired electrician, 71 years old. He represents what America is supposed to be. You have a wife and 4 wonderful children. What better guy could there be than Robert Elshire? His only crime is to walk up a street trying to buy some medication for his wife.
If you can think of anything else, please give us a call. I'm so sorry for your loss. We'll show ourselves out.
Thank you.
Who would want a man like Robert Elshire dead? A fellow marathon runner with an axe to grind? Or perhaps someone from Robert's life back in Arkansas? Neither one of these theories sit well with Kenda.
You begin to wonder, where can we go? Who can we talk to? All you're looking for is a new idea. Every murder case has a point of despair, and sometimes that repeats. We're no closer to catching this guy than we were when we arrived on this scene.
But no sooner has doubt set in than an eyewitness steps forward with game-changing information.
I'm Detective Kenda.
Her name is Julie Canfield Shandy.
You know something about this?
I might know something that happened earlier that might be related.
According to Julie, just moments after the shooting, she had a strange and nearly fatal encounter on the road adjacent to the drugstore parking lot.
All of a sudden, this kid comes running out of nowhere in the middle of the street.
She says a kid runs in front of her car to the point to where she has to slam on the brakes because she almost hits him. He looks at her and she looks at him.
She described this party as Hispanic and that he was wearing a pair of gray pants at the time.
She's absolutely certain that they're gray.
Did you get a good look at him?
I got a pretty good look at him. He kind of stopped right in front of my car.
He runs across the street and embraces a second person, who she says is another kid, about his age, 15 or 16. But she doesn't get a good look at him.
And the two of them took off running towards the apartment complex just east of this location.
Armed with this information,
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Kenda takes another look at the pile of condoms and is struck with an idea.
Do they sell these in that drugstore? I didn't think anybody bought them in there. I thought they could have been stolen from there. Shoplifted. So I go to the drugstore and I contact the assistant manager.
Do you sell these in your store? No, sir, not those kind. No.
I show him these condoms. Do you sell those in your store? No, I don't, but I've seen them before.
And I had 3 kids coming in, probably.
That's when assistant manager Joe Bricardo tells Kenda the story of another odd encounter, one he had in the store a few hours earlier.
3 young men came in the store. One was African-American and 2 were Hispanic. The African-American and the older Hispanic were probably about 16 or 17, and the younger one was probably 12 years old.
The black kid's got a really wicked scar on the left side of his face. A serious, apparent, obvious scar. Okay.
According to Joe Bricardo, after entering the store, he noticed the 3 boys were carrying something unusual.
They had a number of condoms with them, and they wanted to make sure we didn't think that they were stealing them.
Okay.
So I told them to put everything in a bag and we'll keep it behind the counter. Well, they had quite a few condoms. They filled that shopping bag up to the top where when I tried to tie off the handles of it, I couldn't even have it all the way closed.
Joe Ricardo tells Kenda that he asked the boys where they got all the condoms.
Well, there's an alcohol treatment center, and we took them out of there.
We did keep a little bit of a close eye on them because they seemed a little bit suspicious. After they did their shopping, they did come back up to the front cashier and ask for their bag back with the condoms, and I gave it to them. I just kind of made a joke.
Planning on having a big weekend?
Not really.
All right, have a nice day.
They left the store, and that was the last of it.
It's an unusual story, but Joe Ricardo's description of the condoms is a match for the ones found near the crime scene.
Now I can connect those condoms to a Hispanic male who's 15 or 16, just like Julie saw. Are these my shooters? They certainly could be.
Listen up. I need all available units to set up a 20-block perimeter at every intersection. Check everything coming in or out.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
let's get to it.
Because of the time frame, I tell the patrol supervisor I want 20 blocks. Now, you say to yourself, well, a person can run pretty far in a few minutes. Yeah, they can. But humans don't continue to run. They get tired, they get frightened, they want to see if they're being followed. 20 blocks should be more than enough. If these people are still on foot, you're basically building a fishing net, and you're slowly going to pull the string. You catch a lot of fish, but you throw a lot of fish back.
Within minutes, Kenda's dragnet snags its first catch.
How you doing?
Keep on driving.
Come on, get to the hood, come on. Come on. Have a seat, watch your head.
63 to Lieutenant Kenda.
Moments later, Kenda is notified that patrolmen have a young male in custody who matches the description of one of his suspects.
I've got a possible homicide suspect, the Hispanic male wearing the black jacket.
Blue jeans and white sneakers.
Good, take him to the station. I'm on my way.
We find a guy. He's a Hispanic male. He's 17 years old. They asked him where he's been. He names the liquor store in the complex where our victim was shot. He's not a throwback. He's a keeper.
Just days before the Pikes Peak Marathon, 71-year-old runner Robert Elshire has been gunned down in a shopping center parking lot in Colorado Springs. After setting up a 20-block perimeter around the crime scene, Lieutenant Joe Kenda has reeled in a promising suspect.
We find a guy named Jerry Chavez. He's a Hispanic male. He's 17 years old. He's evasive, and he's wanted on warrants. Oh, I like him. So him I think we'll keep.
Jerry Chavez fits the general description of one of the young men identified by drugstore manager Joe Ricardo and motorist Julie Canfield Shandy.
They asked him where he's been. He names the liquor store in the complex where our victim was shot. That's excellent. So you're telling us you were there?
Detectives escort Jerry Chavez down to the station. A few minutes later, Kenda joins him in the interrogation room.
Jerry, right?
Yeah.
His initial attitude is basically drop dead. He's a typical unhappy customer. He hates the police. He doesn't mind telling you that.
Jerry, why don't you tell me what you were doing in that neighborhood where they picked you up?
I was going to the liquor store.
Kenda puts up with Chavez's bad attitude for a minute, then informs him he's being questioned in connection to a homicide.
Well, the reason you're here, Jerry, is because there was a homicide in that shopping complex.
A what?
His whole demeanor changes. That scares him, because he knows that that's trouble that doesn't stop.
A murder. And I got a feeling you know something about that.
No, I don't.
He puts two and two together and says, wait a minute, I was in a different liquor store. He's already changing his story, not even in response to questions. He's a suspicious guy. Is he our guy? I don't know, but I certainly don't know that he isn't. So we need to look into him further.
Kenda decides the best thing to do at this point is to turn Jerry Chavez over to the crime lab.
Well, here's what we're gonna do, Jerry. I'm gonna take your clothes. I'm gonna have them tested for gunshot residue and blood spatter.
Man, whatever you need to do.
You okay with that?
I didn't do this.
All right, stand up and take them off.
We're gonna test you for gunshot residue on your hands. We're gonna inspect your clothes. We're looking for high-velocity blood spatter.
Lab techs run Jerry Chavez's clothes and hands through the GSR kit, but the tests come back negative, and Kenda has no choice but to cut his petulant suspect loose.
Jerry's a jerk, but being an asshole is not against the law. If it were, we'd have to erect a fence around the state of Colorado and inform everyone they're in custody. We have to go with what we can prove, and right now we can't prove much.
With Jerry Chavez off the hook, Kenda waits patiently as officers working his perimeter inch their way closer to the crime scene. But after hours of searching, they're no closer to apprehending their suspects. So Kenda decides it's time to call in the big dogs, or to be more accurate, the big dog, a canine officer named Axe.
A dog is used by law enforcement agencies as a sophisticated tool. These are very expensive animals that are trained in specific functions. We have one dog that's a tracking dog. His whole mission in life is to track scents.
Kenda hopes Axe can help determine which direction the perpetrator or perpetrators fled once they shot Robert Elshire. It doesn't take long for Axe to hit pay dirt.
He picks up a scent and starts to track north. Now, our witness, Julie, says our guy is north of the scene running across the street, and this dog is headed in that direction like a torpedo.
Axe leads Kenda and his men to an apartment complex 53 yards away. Then, without warning, Axe stops dead in his tracks.
He stops near a bush and sits down. It's an alert signal. There's something here, guys. We look under this bush, and there is a Ruger target pistol, Mark I. It hasn't been thrown under this bush, it's been placed there.
But the gun has Kenda scratching his head. The Ruger Mark I isn't a .25 caliber weapon like the one used to murder Robert Elshire.
So then you think, all right, is this part of this? What if our second man had a gun? It is not uncommon for bad guys to hide guns while they're running from what they expect is going to be a police pursuit. The theory is, if they catch me, I don't have a gun. I'll go back later and get my gun.
Kenda orders officers to collect the weapon and move on, following their canine's lead.
The dog continues to work the scent. There's an 8-foot fence separating this complex from private homes. And what's there on the ground?
We got more condoms.
8 more condoms. Same ones, same brand. So this is no question. These are the guys from the parking lot. There's our condoms. Trying to find these people. They had no idea that I was looking. They had no idea, at least not yet, that I was right behind them. But very soon, I'm going to be able to reach out and touch them. And then they will know.
Then suddenly, there's a problem. Axe begins to pace back and forth along the fence line.
The handler says these guys split up. One went over here. One went over the fence here.
With the scent splintering in 2 directions, Axe is unsure which path to take.
We're at that point again of being at a dead stop, and that's the last place I want to be right now. I don't want to be where I don't know what's next.
Then, in an instant, Axe's ears perk up. Officers notice 2 figures moving in the shadows.
Police, step out where I can see you!
2 kids come out of the area where we found the first gun.
Police canine, stop or release the dog!
He challenges them with the dog. Now the dog is going bananas. Everybody's afraid of dogs.
Now move, hands on your head!
They stop dead in their tracks.
Kenda approaches the young men to get a better look.
These two individuals both roughly fit the description. One is a Hispanic male. He says he's 17. His name is Alan Lucero. His friend, his name is Damian Nicholas. Damian says that he is 17 years old.
What you guys doing here?
Man, chilling outside. Yeah.
It appears Kenda has found his suspects, but as he examines the boys more closely, he notices some discrepancies between their appearance and the eyewitness descriptions he's been given.
We're looking for a black male with a severe scar on the left side of his face. Damian is a black male. He does not have a scar on his face. We're looking for a Hispanic male in gray pants.
They're in the right location, they're same physical build, but we don't have anything to say they're actual suspects, so we treat them as witnesses.
After hauling the boys downtown and placing them in separate interrogation rooms, Kenda and Detective Brian Ritz start with Damian Nicholas, who seems eager to cooperate.
Damian is friendly. Damian's a nice-looking kid. Seems not nervous at all, not the least bit upset. Wants to be helpful to the police.
Damn, you didn't happen to go to the drugstore tonight, did you?
No, not to the drugstore.
You didn't? Can you tell me what you did tonight?
Well, what I did is, me and Alan, we were with my girl all night.
Damian explains that he and Alan spent most of their night watching movies at the home of his girlfriend, Vita Mays. After that, the two boys left.
So they were walking back when the officers came across them.
And when we seen you guys, we also seen the dog. And we were just scared, so we just started running.
Damian is providing me very plausible information. He's very forthcoming. His detail is fairly good. It's enough to where I began to question whether or not he was actually involved in this crime.
All right. Stay put for a little bit.
But before Kenda will release Damian, he wants to sit down with Damian's friend, Alan Lucero, who wastes no time contradicting his friend's sworn statement.
What can you tell me about this shooting outside of the pharmacy?
Maybe I know who did it.
Well, you say maybe. What's maybe mean? If you think you know who did it, then you better tell me.
"71-year-old retiree Robert Elshire was in town to run the annual Pikes Peak Marathon. But on a late-night walk to buy aspirin for his wife, he was viciously gunned down in a shopping center parking lot.
You just get sick to your stomach that these people come here to Colorado to enjoy the beauty of the Rocky Mountains and wind up in the middle of this nightmare.
Thanks to the help of a trusted canine officer, Lieutenant Joe Kenda has tracked down two potential suspects.
Don't move, hands on your head!
17-year-old Alan Lucero and 17-year-old Damian Nicholas.
So they don't closely match these people that we believe we're looking for, but they are in this area, and it's worthy enough to speak to them about what they may know.
After questioning Damian Nicholas, Kenda is all but convinced these young men aren't the guys he's looking for. But when he questions Alan Lucero...
What can you tell me about this shooting outside of the pharmacy?
Alan makes a shocking revelation.
Maybe I know who did it.
What's maybe mean?
I do know. It's Damian Nicholas.
He says his friend, Damian, shot and killed Robert Elshire.
Can you tell me about it?
We started off, we were at his girlfriend Vita's house.
According to Alan, around 8 o'clock, he and Damian left Vita's house and headed over to the Valley High Shopping Center, where Damian got an idea.
He needed some money. He had a gun. He had more than one gun, and he was going to see if he could find somebody to rob.
Alan walked across the street to wait for Damian. Moments later,
give me money.
He heard a gunshot and saw his friend running towards him.
All of a sudden, he comes running back across the street, says he shot the dude, and we better run. And we ran. I had a gun, I put it under the bush. It was a .22, and he had a .25 auto, and he had a .380. He had two guns, and we threw them in a yard in the neighborhood.
This explains why K-9 Officer Axe discovered a .22 caliber gun under the bush, rather than a .25. Alan Lucero's story seems to gel with the evidence, but there's one unexplained detail that's still nagging at Kenda.
We found a bunch of condoms in the parking lot and more by the fence. What's up with that?
They were just in the parking lot. I guess they fell out as we were running.
That's when Kenda has an epiphany.
We find out in all probability we have different individuals. Alan Lucero and Damian Nicholas were not the same individuals that had walked in with the condoms when they went into that store.
For Kenda, now comes the hard part, verifying Lucero's version of events.
You say, Alan, that you know where these other two guns are. Yes, I do. Show us where they are.
And you can take us to them?
I can.
All right, let's go.
All right.
Alan Lucero leads Kenda and his team back to the apartment complex where he and Damian were initially picked up.
He pointed out where one gun was hidden. That was the gun we'd already recovered. He also pointed out the location where they threw some guns over the fence.
Officer, do you mind going around checking?
We recovered 2 separate weapons from that, one which we believed was possibly the murder weapon.
With the likely murder weapon in hand, Kenda returns to the station, now fairly certain the cooperative, cool-headed Damian Nicholas has been feeding him a pack of lies.
It's about time you start telling us the truth.
What do you mean?
The truth, not that same bull story you already gave us.
And now we confront Damian.
That is the truth. That's what happened.
Damian denies everything, sticks to his initial story. We say, Damian, you're not listening. This is your friend, and he is naming you as the person responsible.
Your boy Alan gave you up.
In addition to naming you, he just sent our officers out with him to find their murder weapon, and they came back here with it. That's a big problem, don't you think, Damian?
It's in that moment that Damian's calm, collected demeanor comes crashing down.
Damian finally just breaks down and says, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Why is he ratting me out? I didn't shoot anybody. Alan shot somebody.
So now Alan's the one that did this?
Yes, Alan was the one who shot him.
Kenda's prime suspects have just turned on each other, and though Kenda suspects one of them murdered Robert Elshire, the question now is which one?
It's annoying that we have to play this game to get to the truth. I'm good at the game.
And you have some way you can back this up? You can prove this to us?
Kenda pushes Damian for details that might support his version of the story.
There's some gray pants.
You'll find a pair of pants at my girlfriend's house that Alan was wearing. You get them and bring them here, and you'll see that they don't fit me. I wasn't wearing them.
You can even try them on me. They're not mine. They're his.
Those are Alan's pants?
Yes.
Eyewitness Julie Canfield Shandy identified the shooter as wearing a pair of gray pants the night of the crime. If Damian is telling the truth, this could be the evidence Kenda has been looking for.
Okay, Damian. We'll be back.
As the sun begins to rise over Colorado Springs, Kenda's men pound on the front door of a nearby residence. A man answers the door.
Morning. What can I help you, sir? Colorado Springs detectives.
It's the father of Damian's girlfriend, Vita Mays.
Do you mind if we come in and talk to her? Of course, come in.
Her father is more distressed than she is. She's more interested in the standard juvenile code of silence. Never tell an adult the truth.
Do you know a Damian?
No. I don't know what you're talking about.
Damian, your boyfriend?
Refusing to play her game, Kenda peppers Vita with questions.
The reason we're here is because your boyfriend Damian and his friend Alan are in a lot of trouble.
Look, I don't know anything.
Eventually, Vita starts to crack.
Damian's your boyfriend, correct?
Yes.
And he was here last night?
Yeah, he came over.
Then you know his friend Alan Lucero. Well, yeah, I know Alan. Great, because they were here last night.
Tell me what happened.
Vita tells Kenda that she, Damian, and Alan all watched the movie at her place.
And did they leave at any point?
They went to go play basketball.
According to Vita, after the movie was over,
You ready to get out of here?
Yeah.
Damian and Alan left, but then returned a few hours later.
What happened when they came back?
They were really sweaty, and so they changed clothes.
At that point, Damien asked Vita to hold on to his gym bag. Then he and Alan headed back out into the night.
Is that bag here? Well, yeah, that black bag there on the floor, that's Damien's bag. Great.
Go ahead and open it.
We open the bag. There's a box of 25 auto ammunition and a box of 380 ammunition in the bag. We're looking around the bag. There's a pair of gray pants. Whose pants are those? Those are Alan's.
When did you leave him here?
Last night.
So these are the pants that he was wearing?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
This gray pair of pants had some shell casings or live rounds, 25 caliber, in the pockets. Another piece of evidence that ties everything to our scene.
Detectives collect the evidence and deliver it to headquarters for processing, except for the gray pants. Kenda takes those back to the interrogation room where Alan Lucero is being held.
Recognize these, Alan?
No.
And throws them at his suspect.
Try them out.
Right now? Yeah, right now. Put them on.
Lieutenant Joe Kenda is sitting in an interrogation room across from 17-year-old Alan Lucero. Lucero, along with his friend Damien Nicholas, are the prime suspects in the shooting death of 71-year-old marathon runner Robert Elshire. Both young men claim the other is responsible.
Why is he ratting me out? I didn't shoot anybody.
Now we have the ultimate problem. We have two perpetrators accusing each other.
Kenda's men have discovered a pair of gray pants that Damien and his girlfriend claim Alan Lucero was wearing the night of the murder. Pants that match a description of the shooter given by eyewitness Julie Canfield Shandy. Kenda decides to use this evidence as a chance to play hardball with Alan Lucero.
These aren't your pants?
I tell you what, Alan, try these on. And I threw them at him.
Try them out.
Right now? Yeah, right now. Put them on. He puts them on, they of course fit perfectly. It's amazing, isn't it, Alan?
With the gray pants, the discovery of the likely murder weapon, and Julie Canfield Shandy's eyewitness account, Kenda is ready to charge Alan Lucero with the murder of Robert Elshire.
We've got a very good circumstantial case against these people. I want it much tighter than that. I need a statement. Tell me you did this.
Unfortunately, Alan Lucero's age complicates the situation.
Alan is under 18, which means legally he is a child, which means his parents are required before we can take a legal statement in which we are going to accuse him of murder. So we have to advise him of his Miranda rights, and we have to advise his parents of his Miranda rights. They have to waive on his behalf, and he has to waive also.
Before we start, I need to inform you of your rights. You have the right to remain silent.
Alan's mother's in tears, so is his father. Not Alan, just the parents.
Alan's mother and father urge their son to tell the truth. Alan sticks to his original story.
I need you to tell me why you shot that man.
I didn't. Damien did.
Lucero, like all other kids his age, they present this attitude of they're bad guys and they're not afraid of the police, but in reality they are.
Kenda counts on this fear to get his confession.
Do you remember when you ran across the street and almost got hit by a car? And you stopped right in front of that car? Do you remember that, Alan? And he looks at us and he says,
"Did she see my face?"
"Yeah, Alan, she saw your face." And you see it. He is cornered now. He's absolutely cornered.
I shot him.
When you finally get to the truth, it makes you feel very good.
Alan explains his family had recently fallen on hard financial times, and he committed the crime to help pay the bills and keep from being evicted. But at this point, Kenda's no longer concerned with the why so much as the how.
We asked Alan where he came by these weapons, and he said Damien had all three of them.
According to Alan, on the night of the murder, he asked Damien if he'd help him pull off an armed robbery.
You ready? Yeah, man. Let's go.
Damien agreed, and after leaving Vita May's house, they camped out in the drugstore parking lot, scoping out potential victims.
They actually had waited outside this drugstore, and nobody was coming out.
So Damien went to the other side of the street to wait, but I stayed there.
Moments later, Alan spotted Robert Elshire making his way toward the drugstore.
A guy came around and I tapped him on the shoulder. Hey, give me your money.
He took a swing at me, and I stepped back, and I said, I'm gonna shoot you, and I fired the gun. And he went down on the ground, and I screamed, I'm sorry, at the top of my lungs, and then I ran.
Alan Lucero claims he was so shaken by what he'd done that he forgot to actually steal Robert Elshire's wallet. Once safely across the street, Alan hooked back up with Damien Nicholas.
They have this cockamamie juvenile scheme of hiding the guns and changing clothes and stumbling around in this neighborhood until they get picked up by the police.
When Kenda confronts Damien with Alan's confession, he confirms the story. Both boys are charged as adults for first-degree murder.
Damien is a participant. He provides the weapons. He is a lookout at the time the incident occurs. In the law, eyes of the law, he's equally responsible.
Folks in Colorado Springs are shaken by this senseless crime. And when the Pikes Peak Marathon begins 2 days later, victim Robert Elshire is remembered by his fellow runners.
The race event coordinators decided that all of the runners in the race that day would wear a ribbon on their arm in memory of my dad. And when they got to the top, they had a small little ceremony of the runners after the race.
The absolute most horrible part of this is Robert Elshire, a 71-year-old man who is in Colorado to run up a mountain because he likes to do it. And somebody takes his life for nothing.
At trial, Alan Lucero and Damien Nicholas are found guilty of first-degree murder. They are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
These people were kids. They decided to act like adults. And when you act like one, I'm going to treat you like one. They got what they deserved. That's what justice means. We weren't going to rest until we found these people. And we did.